Looking at this market on the weekly, it doesn't seem as though we are bouncing right now, but if we look at the daily view of the market, we could see it is a sea of green, and we love to see this. Ethereum up 3.3% today, HBAR up only 1.2%, XRP only up about 2.4%, but for the most part, we are starting to see some nice bounces in the market. Now, are we going to get ahead of ourselves and say, hey, guess what? The bottom is in. There's no more downside at all until, the next correction. No, of course not, right? We can't get too far ahead of ourselves here. But one thing for certain that I'm looking at here is altcoins are about to wake up in a very large way. I've been saying it. I've been talking about it for the last couple weeks. And I know that I sound like a broken record when I say it, but yes, alt season is coming. I know, and I even said this in a recent video because I remember saying it. It kind of sounds like the Game of Thrones reference, hey, winter is coming, because we've been hearing alt season is coming for quite some time now. But the main thing that we are watching is just how bullish Ethereum is compared to Bitcoin. Even on the daily, we are recovering better on Ethereum than on Bitcoin. Right now, Bitcoin 109 point almost 4K, 1.4%. Ethereum 3.3%, almost 4,500. XRP up 2.3%, not too bad, $2.85.5. So again, solid bounce right now in the market. We love to see that. Just going and looking at the market cap of crypto as well, we could see the big bounce on Ethereum and Bitcoin just on the top here, and even XRP. It's across the board technically. But on the market cap of crypto, and I think that this is kind of messed up. I know that it kind of messes up a little bit, but it doesn't look like much on this 30-day, but we are starting to see a spike off of the lows. I do think that we are mainly holding those lows going back to the beginning of the month at about 3.74 trillion. We wicked down to about roughly 3.73 trillion. And now we're looking for a big bounce here. So I'm watching to see a much larger breakout across the board for the market to really rise the crypto market cap itself back above 4 trillion. That would be a huge moment for crypto. Fear and greed hovering just around 40, right? The neutral territory dipping back down to close to like the June lows. So this is a nice area for a big bounce. Most of the market was kind of shaken a bit. I'm sure that there was a lot of positions wiped out in terms of liquidations. So again, this is a very good overall reaction to the market at this current point, and this bounce is starting to look pretty good. Now, the altcoin season index, this thing continues to rise more and more and more. And just looking at this, we are at 59 out of 100. Again, alt season, the last time that it was considered altcoin season was back in December of last year when altcoin season hit 87 and Bitcoin season hit about 12 back in April as well. But again, the main focus here is if we're looking at altcoin season, I don't even like to reference this chart itself. I don't care about this chart too much. What I really look at is just dominance and how money is trickling down the market. Because going off of this indicator, we technically had altcoin season back in December. We technically had altcoin season back in March of 2024. It's not a very good thing to decide whether or not we are seeing altcoin season or not. The main thing is just dominance. But I love to see this at 59 out of 100 because it is also telling us, and it's really confirming, that Bitcoin dominance continues to drop. And so far, we are nearing that first key level of interest at about 56.94%, which is also why we see a lot of altcoins up in a big way on the daily, like IP up 30, almost 4%. There's been some nice gains across the board, even M and Crow and Polygon, Arrow as well. But if we look at this on like the last month, there's a lot of altcoins that are up 100+%, 60+%, 50+%. So it's been a very good month for altcoins, and this is the reason why, because we are seeing such a massive low on the Bitcoin dominance chart. Also, if we're just looking at others dominance, which is the altcoin market, I was expecting this thing to range a little bit more before we have that big jump, and I think I was looking at this possibly on the 1 month. Yeah, I was looking at it on the 1 month. So just taking a quick look at the 1 month, we are starting to see a nice little bounce off of this red zone. I would love to see us reclaim about 8.87% on this, kind of flip that low going back to June of 2023. This would confirm a lot of strength on altcoins. This is the altcoin market outside of the top 10. So dominance is starting to rise on this, which is why altcoin season index is rising as well. And then, of course, Bitcoin dominance and Ethereum dominance. Just looking at this thing on the 1 month view, I was originally looking at it on the 3 month or on the 3 week, I believe, but this thing is starting to drop quite a bit, and weakness is starting to show, but we haven't yet seen a massive reaction on this since going all the way back to like 2021. Again, this January 2021 move here, this is exactly what we want to see on this chart as well this time around. That will confirm altcoin season officially being here. But beyond that, right, we're not just sitting here talking about altcoin season and, you know, harping on about it. We're also looking at, is this bounce the start of a major reversal or not? Bitcoin right now in the last 7 days, this is what the 7-day span looks like. I do have the chart open over here. This is what I am expecting, right? You know, I was originally expecting us to dip down into this 106 to 108K zone. I talked about it. I said it over on the 20th. If we go all the way back to the 20th, we were trading at about roughly 112, 114K or so. We did have a nice wick to 117K. During this time, basically everyone was saying, all right, well, you know what? That's it. The lows in. We held support going all the way back to the beginning of the month, so we should just continue to break out here. We did not do that. We actually continued to break down, and we lost the May high, which can, you know, really, I would say confirmed the push back down into this demand zone. And then we finally got that wick, and now we're starting to see a nice reaction on the daily. I would love for us on the weekly, okay? And this is where things become very, very important. On the weekly, I would just like to see a close above the May highs here. So just having a nice close above 109K will be a very big signal of strength on Bitcoin. I know that it doesn't sound that bullish, but it's very similar to this move back here where we had, you know, a big drop in the middle of June. But if we look at the weekly candle closes, it was right around 100 and, you know, 0.7K. This might not seem like a lot of strength, but it's the fact that we didn't lose 100K. So this is kind of our 100K level here, which is our May highs. This is also the high going all the way back to January. So just holding those January highs at around roughly like 109.4K, that would be very good for Bitcoin. If, you know, we do reclaim above 111.8K on the weekly and really kind of close above that, that will be huge for Bitcoin. So the main thing here is on the daily, just watch for more strength to form here. Watch for this reversal to really hold. And also, if we really want to show a lot of strength on Bitcoin, reclaiming a higher high on this chart, so breaking over 113.4K, almost 113.5K, that would be a big signal that the chart is starting to flip bullish again, even on the lower time frame structure. On the higher time frame structure, we have a lot of work to do, but so far Bitcoin does look pretty good here. And with Ethereum, you know, again, Ethereum on the 7-day structure looks pretty good. We are seeing a nice little bounce here. We're still down, but on the daily, what I'm mainly looking at is for this higher low to hold. So we shouldn't really see a loss of, I mean, realistically speaking, we shouldn't be seeing a loss of 4,200. We should maintain this high here. And if we can do that and we manage to hold this and we manage to, you know, break back above 4,800 and start to break to a higher high, that would be a higher time frame and even a lower time frame structure break, which will be a bullish structure formed on Ethereum again. And that's where we start to see altcoins really start to have those major signs of reversals. You know, most altcoins should be reversing at that time anyways. And again, this would signal that the market bottom is basically in on this recent move. And then with XRP, you know, XRP, no real major change. We are starting to see a nice little bounce today, which is, you know, very good. We started to bounce off of the lows of like sub $2.80. We're now at almost $2.90. This is what the daily looks like. You know, so far we have held the lows going all the way back to the beginning of August. We did find support right around the wick of, you know, July 15th. So very good overall reaction right now. Technically, we do have a higher low close on the daily, which again, very good to see. Now, the main thing that we're looking at here is just starting to reclaim bullish structure. So we need to see a flip of $3.08. That would be a very good start. And then after that, we could start to build out a floor, you know, on a higher low, and then we could start to break over these highs going back to the beginning of August as well. So no major change on XRP. Watch for a loss of $2.76, because if we do lose that, we should be seeing this blue zone down here. It's very possible that we do. But, you know, just mainly watch for strength to continue to form on XRP. We have a 3-day weekend in front of us. So, you know, this is prime time for, you know, volatility and market manipulation. But beyond that, the main thing that we're looking at, and I want to say a big shout out to Credible Crypto, because I saw this come up on my timeline earlier today, and it's 100% correct, right? He said, "It is nice to see a steady stream of accounts that pop up on my feed that are claiming that they believe the cycle top is already in or close enough to exit all their positions here. it would be much more worrying to me if I didn't see any of this and instead only saw euphoria on the timeline. Right now, the handful of accounts that I do see that are on the same page as me, cycle top definitely not in, much higher to go, are all ones that usually have a sound approach slash methodology and that I respect in terms of their approach and ability in trading these markets. The show goes on. And yeah, listen, we've been seeing a lot of peak bearish posts on X, and I've been talking about this over the last couple of days, even when the market starts to initially pull back. I mean, we're talking about going all the way back to, roughly the middle of the month, right? Once we start to see this big drop from like 124, almost 125K down to 117K, that's when we start to see those posts coming up more and more on, Twitter. So I was reading them and I kind of had the same mindset. I was like, it's good to see this instead of somebody saying like, all right, well, this is a slight pullback before we go to the 150K on Bitcoin. No, we want to see this sort of negativity on the feed. We want to see that fear in the market. We want to see people saying, all right, well, the cycle top is very close. We probably don't have like, more than a month left. And we want to see that because what that's telling us is people are just simply not seeing the big picture here. And if it was all full of like euphoria, oh, like we're going higher, we're going much higher, typically that tells us that the market is in extreme greed and that a major correction or a major sell-off or maybe even the top is in. So when we're looking at this, that's why we always look at fear and greed and we kind of base it off of this, because even if we go back to, the end of November, this is not where the market's topped. In fact, we continued to really range around this all the way into roughly the middle of December. Now, during this time, some altcoins did top out. Some altcoins did not continue higher. Now, we did continue, and we start to see, a lot of, greed starting to hit the market. And then by this point in the market, towards the end of January, where we had this nice little bounce in the market, this is where the market top, or the local top, I should say, was in. And then we sold off all the way into April. I mean, it completely wiped out the market. This is where everyone started to really panic. And then, boom, the bottom was hit in, and then we just continued to go higher into May. This is where Bitcoin made a new all-time high. Again, back into greed levels. Then we had the sell-off into June. And then, boom, we have another big greed level that was hit, especially leading into the middle of this month. And that's where a sell-off hit. Now we're looking at the next big wave here, taking us to 80 plus on the fear and greed index, which should be into the extreme greed level. And during this time, we should start to see altcoins really waking up, because during that time, we should see Ethereum making a new all-time high, going into, price. I mean, listen, if we are talking about, all-time highs, we always talk about all-time highs because price discovery itself is so violent on these charts. I say this with so much confidence because Ethereum is a very good example of this, because we have two cycles to base this off of. For an example, here's Ethereum's top back in 2017, 2018. This was $1,154. Then the next time that we broke over this, okay, and we're on the weekly here, there was only 2 weekly candles in a row of just consolidation before we just went. And from this point on, we hit almost $5,000. And this was in a very short amount of time. I mean, even if we talk about the initial break of the all-time high to the May high, this was 126 days. Now you might say, well, that's 126 days. Yeah, it is 126 days, but it's also a rise of over 275%. And most of the altcoin market was following Ethereum during that time, exaggerating that move by, 2, 3x. So some of these altcoins were up almost 10x in 126 days. So that's why we're looking at price discovery. That's why we're looking at this market. That's why we're looking at and basing this off of previous cycles as well. And just looking at the structure of some of these charts, because, a lot of people right now are very negative. They want to get out of their positions. They want to sell. And, the market, once it starts to shake them out, they start to sell, and, before the big move actually happens. So when we look at this, this is exactly what we want to see. We want to see this because this will lead to euphoria hitting the market, and most of these people that are getting shaken out at this time FOMOing back in. So the main thing to focus on here when it comes to this market, yeah, it's a 3-day weekend. Yes, we'll see market manipulation. The main thing to look at is the weekly candle close. We're watching the weekly candle close very, very close. This is 21 hours away, roughly. By the time that this video goes live, we'll probably be about almost like 19 hours away. We want to see a weekly candle close, preferably above 109K. If we do see 100 and almost 12K reclaimed on the weekly, that will be massive on Bitcoin. With Ethereum, the main thing is that we just want to maintain some higher lows on the daily. On the weekly, we're not going to see like a crazy candle close, but I mean, realistically, we just want to close above, some of these previous highs from 2024. So that looks like it's going to probably be the case. On the 3-day structure, again, we want to maintain these highs that we're currently trading at. We want to start to break out and really reclaim some of these higher highs. We want to break to a new higher high, which will be bullish structure on Ethereum. And then with XRP, we probably just chop a little bit in this sort of range that we're in. I'm not expecting anything, crazy here on XRP until we start to see that big recovery across the board. So, just kind of sit back. Don't do much. It's Labor Day weekend, so just kind of spend some time with family and friends and have a cookout or something. Just take some time away from the charts. It's probably going to be pretty boring leading into September. The first half of September might be pretty boring, might even be a little bit negative, but then leading into the FOMC meeting, the rest of the September should be very, very bullish. And then going into October, the market should be fully recovered and we should be on our way back to the upside. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, definitely leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on because I'm more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord in the description below. And with that being said, guys, it's been Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out.